If you had told Kyle or Jessica that one quiet Tuesday morning would change not just their lives, but the lives of millions of strangers around the world, they wouldn't have believed you. Because at the core, they were just two parents. One baby and one dog who had survived something no one could explain in ordinary words. And while the city around them kept spinning in its usual blur of schedules, emails, coffee cups, and elevator dings, inside apartment 3002, time had slowed, reshaped, and breathed something sacred into their walls, something that felt like grace. The kind of grace that whispers through fur and baby laughter and second chances, and the kind that cannot be faked, only felt. After the video interview aired on the local news and was clipped by a popular parenting YouTube channel, everything began to move faster. Calls from talk show producers, packages arriving at their doorstep with hand-knitted baby blankets, personalized collars with Max's name stitched in gold thread, a small blue journal labeled for Noah from the internet, filled with handwritten stories from strangers who said they believed in love again because of him. People across the country, from Oregon to Florida, Maine to Arizona, were reaching out, sharing their own stories of dogs who saved, comforted, or healed them, stories they had never told anyone until now, unlocked by the image of a baby. Reaching out to a dog who hung from a rooftop not with fear, but with faith. There was a family in Nebraska who had lost a son to illness, and said, "We watched that video holding our dog, crying together, because we know what it means to love deeply, and to nearly lose everything in a moment." A retired soldier in South Dakota sent a letter that read, "My service dog once stopped me from walking into traffic when I was at my lowest. When I saw what Max did, I saw my own story, and I thank you for reminding the world that dogs are more than pets. They're lifelines." There were even classrooms of children from third graders in North Carolina to kindergartners in Utah who sent drawings of Max and Noah with captions like, "The bravest dog," "The baby with superpowers," and one from a little girl named Lily that simply said, "I want to be like Noah when I grow up, kind and brave and hugging dogs." The story began taking on a life of its own. Social media was flooded with fan art, tribute videos, and compilations of other heroic dogs, all inspired by Max's rooftop miracle. And someone even started a hashtag called #HoldOnMax, which became a symbol for perseverance, for loyalty, for love that holds on even when everything's slipping. People began posting under the hashtag during hard times. A college student in New York who was failing her final exams wrote, "Today I felt like Max on the edge. But I remembered his eyes and I held on." A single dad in Texas posted a photo of his daughter hugging their Labrador and wrote, "She used to be scared of dogs until she saw Max and Noah. Now she won't sleep without hugging Champ. Thank you." Even celebrities began commenting. One actress from a popular Netflix drama tweeted, "Just watched the Max video and sobbed for 20 minutes. Dogs don't just save lives, they save hearts." Jessica started getting emotional messages from mothers she didn't know, some of them struggling with postpartum depression, who said that watching Noah's connection to Max gave them a tiny breath of peace in otherwise heavy days, a reminder that softness still exists, and that being a mother, even in chaos, is still sacred work. Kyle, once a quiet man who avoided the spotlight, began writing blog posts about parenting, about the invisible strength of dogs, about what it felt like to see your child do something that defied logic and made you believe in miracles, and his words were shared thousands of times by parents who whispered, "Me too." And yet, inside their home, they were careful not to let the story consume their lives. Kyle and Jessica kept their routines as grounded as they could. Walking Max every morning along the lakefront, letting Noah ride in his little stroller. With a plastic firefighter helmet that he now wore everywhere, a gift from a neighbor who said, "Heroes wear helmets, even the tiny ones." Max walked slower these days, more deliberate, as if every step was stitched with memory, and he often paused on walks to look up at rooftops. Then back at Kyle, who would ruffle his ears and whisper, "Don't worry, buddy, we're staying on the ground from now on." But something else had started happening that caught Jessica by surprise. Noah and Max had developed a secret language, one only they understood, where Noah would babble a series of soft sounds, and Max would tilt his head, then move, either toward the fridge, the crib, or the door. And every time, he was right. Once, when Noah had a slight fever and Kyle and Jessica were asleep, Max barked once, just once, then sat silently at the baby monitor until Kyle woke up and checked. When he did, he found Noah flushed, warm to the touch, and they caught the illness just in time. That moment, Jessica sat on the floor, held Max's face in her hands, and cried into his fur, whispering, "I don't know how you know, but thank you, thank you." And Max licked her tears away, tail barely wagging, eyes steady as stone. A few weeks later, the mayor's office invited them to a small ceremony downtown, a Quiet Heroes Award, usually given to city workers, teachers, or community leaders. But this time, it was for Max, and when the ceremony took place in a sunlit garden with folding chairs and a dozen people clapping gently, Max sat calmly on the stage beside Noah, who was now walking with small, wobbly steps, his tiny hand resting on Max's back like an anchor. The mayor presented a certificate that said for courage, loyalty, and the unbreakable bond between man and dog. And the local paper ran a photo of Max and Noah with the headline, "The Hero and His Tiny Guardian," a reversal that made everyone smile. They became invited guests at dog rescues, child safety seminars, and even a virtual parenting group where Jessica gave a short talk about how love, not fear, is what saves us when it matters most. But beyond the events, beyond the photos and applause, what stayed with Kyle and Jessica the most were the nights when everything was quiet. When Noah would fall asleep clutching Max's tail gently in his hand, and the dog wouldn't move for hours, not even to shift positions, as if knowing that his stillness meant the world to the boy beside him. And every now and then, when Jessica would close her eyes and replay the rooftop moment, her breath would catch, and she'd wonder, what if the baby hadn't reached? What if Max had slipped just a second earlier? But those thoughts never stayed long, because the answer was always the same. They had reached for each other in time, and that was all that mattered. Their story caught the attention of an animal behaviorist at a university who published a paper titled "Empathy in Infancy: Case Study of Canine Infant Bonding," citing Max and Noah's connection as one of the most compelling real-world examples of nonverbal co-regulation between species. And Kyle laughed when he read it, saying, "I don't know about all that, but I do know this. When Noah cries, Max moves first. Every time." The paper led to an invitation to appear on a podcast about animal intelligence, and Kyle, hesitant but encouraged by Jessica, shared his version of the story, not as a viral video, but as a father who watched his dog dangle from death and his baby step into the storm without flinching. The host paused after Kyle's story and said, "You know, people think dogs are man's best friend. I think we've underestimated how much we mean to them, too." And that line stuck with Kyle for days. It made him look at Max differently, not just as a guardian or a pet, but as a soul who had chosen this family, who stayed through grief, through change, through fear, and still gave everything without asking for anything back. That weekend, they framed the newspaper photo of Max and Noah, hung it beside their front door, and under it, Jessica placed a wooden sign that read, "Love is the instinct to reach, even when it hurts." And if you've been watching this far, if you felt something move inside you, something soft or raw or quiet, I'd love for you to tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it over there? You with your dog right now? If so, give them a hug from Max, from Noah, from all of us. And if you've got a story, a memory, a miracle, or even a small moment, I'd love to hear it. Because stories like this remind us that in a world spinning too fast, sometimes the most powerful thing is a pause, a reach, and a bond no one can explain. In part 4, something unexpected will happen, something that brings the whole story full circle in a way none of them saw coming.